Oh, looks like you caught me in building a cathedral or whatever I'm building now. Yeah. Well, some of you might not know about my building expertise. In fact, I don't even think I've ever shown it, except for that one video where... Was that the Lapis series? I think it was. Where I built this little house over here, and you may have seen some other things. The south, I'm pretty proud of. I mean, it's not my best work. Like, obviously. I would say that this is definitely my best work. Followed by this thing, and then that thing. But today, I'm here to show you tricks, not show off my builds. Although I might catch myself doing that. So my first trick has to do with roofing. Now, roofs come in many shapes and sizes. And we can't fat shame them for being a little chunky. Although fat shame this roof all you want. I hate it. And I'm not changing it because this is where I kind of first learned how to do gradients. So it has a sentimental place. Now, these roofs are flat. You might want to add some variation on at the top, but not as much variation as this. This could be a little chaotic. But the roofs are, or should be, like, not always 45-degree angles. That kind of adds, like, you know, boringness. But what you will want to do is, if it is a 45-degree angle, just add something on top, like a cupola, or just have a round thing sticking out of it. Or, since I like Tudor stuff, you could just break the roof in half and just have two separate roof lines. Although, if you're going to do that, it's still kind of boring. So add like a separate little thing coming out. And then look at that. Look at the interior of that one, which is something that I cannot say I've done with most builds. But those are my... Oh, and then always overhang. Look at these overhangs. You want the overhang. Now on some builds, you want a border for the roof. Because if it's just, you know, plain, then it doesn't look quite as good. And then always have variation in your style of roofing. Like, these are 3 45-degree angles, so I put in whatever the heck this thing is. And then, you know, these are mostly all kind of like the same thing. Like, there's that, there's that. Actually, I can't say that because these are all completely different. Other than, like, this angle, that angle, but that's beside the point. Something you will want to do is definitely add little things sticking out. Now, I don't like this build. I think it turned out pretty awful, but it can be used as a demonstration. So, yeah. This, I just went overboard with decorations. Oh yeah, and we moved on to the next tip. Sorry. I'm very disorganized and it's early in the morning. So, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you the tips and tricks with fences. Now, I had the right idea, except I used too many of everything else. Now, while these do add depth, don't use them like I did. I was not knowing what I was doing. Part of it turned out okay, most of it didn't. But I would say just stay away from it for a while until you're reasonably confident you can do it. Now, I know people say, oh, well, you gotta try it. And I say, yes, but you're gonna ruin a perfectly good build. Once you get all the other aspects, that's when you can start adding on these things. My next trick is always start with the exterior, unless if it's an interior build. Like, for some of these buildings, I have literally no interior. Because, you know, it's easier to do the exterior first, and then build on the inside. Unless if you're building with a plan, which I never do. and I don't really recommend it, because, you know, I don't. But this actually turned out pretty nice. On the outside, at least. On the inside, yeah, it still looks like it has the same floor it had 600 years ago. But this has a partially finished interior because I finished this quite a bit. Oh. This interior I made to fit with the surroundings without any plan. You don't need a plan to put in some interior. I thought that the second floor would be too cramped if I added another floor, so I just added a loft, and I think it worked. So moving on to interior stuff, just never do the interior first, unless if it is an interior only build like it's underground or something. Which, speaking of underground builds, I don't have any in this world, but this would fit nicely underground. If I could make my way in here. It's a concert hall because I'm a musician. I'm a violist in a couple orchestras, and, you know, I'm pretty good at it. Better than I am at building. But, this is an example of something you would want to build the inside first, because you can really underestimate how large it can be on the outside. Like in here, it looks pretty grand and stuff, which is why I put in these iron bars. If they weren't here, it wouldn't look quite as big. These help separate the sections, and it gives it a bigger feeling. Also, the empty, dark cavernous of the roof, that kind of helps. But I really did not know how big it would be when I started building this. I planned on doing an exterior, and I actually had to stop because I built this thing too close to it. Which this has a nice interior. Not like there can be an interior. It's, you know, not very interiorable. But, you know, I'm kind of proud of it. I mean, what else was I going to do with it? A slab of sandstone. But this was a monumentous undertaking, and it's still the best thing I've done. So, it took a little bit to build. But those are my tips on interior. I'm not an interior person at all. I'm more of an exterior. Moving on to variation, one that I've only recently got the hang of. If you go over here, you may notice that this is bad, as I may have been saying before. Yeah, I did not know what I was doing. There was just too much, and, you know, it's okay to admit that. But this kind of works out here. It's a bit much, but it does kind of work. Now this, this is the first like, gradient thing that I've done. Which I did before Grian's gradient video came out. This was my 4th build in the world, like a few months ago. And after Grian's gradient video, I used a gradient for this, quartz, concrete powder, then wool. I think it works rather nicely. I would suggest using it. But down here I did not use a gradient, I just variated things, although these pillars stay constant. So, that's fun. And then also, if you're building with something like endstone bricks, they don't have any variation except for, like, literally endstone. Like, birch looks a bit weird, but you could use it. I personally think it looks too different, like, you just can't. No. But that's just my opinion. You know, it looks pretty end-like, if only end fortresses looked like this. Now, obviously, they wouldn't have one of these things, but I think they could do this in vanilla. Oh yeah, and then I added the end banner. always add little details to your build that most people don't do. But, there's this, and then over here, I'm doing these things. I really don't like this build. I messed up on it so bad. But that's the whole part of learning. You need to mess up. Which may seem counterintuitive since I said not to do this, but trust me, you don't want to do this. Now this one has no variation, so I'm skipping. This one has more variation. As you can see, I variated. Is that a word in this context? I think it is. I put, little things. Keep them in clumps. Like, if they're mossy stuff, kind of make it like vines growing up. It'll help. And, as you can tell, I don't have a script at all. So, those are all that I can think about for now. I might come out with a part 2 if you like this stuff, which you probably won't, but, most of you probably didn't make it to the end of this video to where you can hear this, but if you did, you might want to comment about that glass dome over there. In the comment section, include something about a fishbowl, if you've made it this far. Which most of you probably won't. But, if you did, congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Now go away.